Hey, good Wednesday afternoon, everyone. State Representative Brad Halbrook here, along with my colleagues to the left of me is Leader David Freese, Chairman of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, Chris Miller,
To the right.
to the right,
Yeah,
to the right, and to the far right,
There you
which
go.
is only in this appearance here. He's only to the far right of me. Is Leader Adam Niemer from the great town of Dietrich, Illinois. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we just got out of the budget speech, the state of the state, the budget speech, the eighth one delivered by Governor Pritzker. And of course, it was just fun and frivolity. And I think it was just kind of amazing how he sees the world. Again, the budget presented, just give you a real quick highlights. We'll dive into this. Biggest budget, largest budget in state history, $56 billion, $1 billion more than the other year, the previous year that we're in. $728 million in new taxes. And again, just more spending and more taxing and more borrowing. Which way we want to go here, gentlemen? Freeze, anything you want to talk about here? I guess the Trump count was only 9. He only mentioned Trump 9 times.
Well, yeah, which is a little disappointing because we really thought, I think it'd be higher than that, but it is what it is. But one of the things that really caught my attention was obviously the electric bills. I mean, he talks about it. We got a lower cost. Well, why are energy bills going up? I mean, everybody knows it's because they're shutting down coal and natural gas.
Right.
And this fantasy of wind and solar just doesn't cut it. Although I was relieved to hear him use the term baseload. First time I ever heard him use that term before.
Right.
Which is what everybody understands and knows that we need for a reliable grid to keep our lights on. I mean, we had talked about this previously during our snowstorm. Ameren had people on standby ready to shut the power off for people so we wouldn't have a brownout or blackout. So, yeah, at least finally it's sinking in. It's maybe a little too late because you can't put power on the grid, like that.
Right. You mentioned base load. I'm not sure, was he talking about true base load or was he trying to infer that maybe the wind and solar would become base load? I don't know. He used the word electricity 9 times, energy 16 times. So it was on his mind to talk about these things.
Well, it's because it's on everybody else's mind.
Because it's on everybody else's mind, right? We've all seen our constituent electric bills. Our own electric bills have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled in some spaces, and due to do the same again this coming summer because of lack of capacity. And so, but I don't think he offered up any real solutions. He talked about how him and other governors of eastern states have put the pressure on PJM and MISO, maybe to some extent, to different alternative energy sources, but the battery stuff.
But again, that doesn't put more power on the grid for a reliable base load.
It's not reliable.
And he's talking about nuclear again. Finally, talking about nuclear. But if you wanted to start breaking ground today for a nuclear power plant, I think that's 10 years out.
10 to 15.
From the time you break ground to the time of completion, because of all the rules and regulations. I also got tickled about the fact that he's trying to bring down the cost of homes by reducing regulations. Well, who put these regulations in place?
Right.
It wasn't us.
Right.
Well, I think you guys are missing the whole point on base load. I think he was more concerned about his feet when he was referring to base load. But I may have read too much into that comment. I'm not sure.
I think we're going to go to Leader Niemer.
Sounds great.
And I think so education. Let's just talk about education for a minute. He mentioned the word education, I think, 13 times in his 19-page budget speech. Let's talk about. I don't know if we've got education on the board. What's your thoughts on education?
We spend, countless thousands upon thousands of dollars on per pupil in the state of Illinois, and 2/3 of kids, 3rd through 6th grade can't read or write at elementary school level. And in Chicago, those numbers are even worse. But the fix is to throw more money at the issue at administrative costs rather than, talking about reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we see more and more bills come out of Springfield that indoctrinate our children rather than educate. They don't want to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. They want to throw more dollars at administrative costs that are going into this. A big issue with your property taxes when it comes to those administrative costs. And also the public pension system is crippled as a result of it. So we continue to throw more money at the problem. The numbers for our students, their proficiency rates continue to decline. And at some point we have to ask ourselves, is this working? Should we do something different? And I do applaud the teachers and administrators that are doing a good job. They exist in the state of Illinois, but unfortunately the Democrats have set the pace to the point of where kids are not learning and dollars are going up.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we spend an additional $350 million every year for public education. That's just baked into law with the new legislation that passed about 7 years ago. And so we see that number. It's over 20% of the budget. It's $11 billion plus every year.
And now he's bringing that with the social media tax, the $200 that he's going to allocate for that, for this new tax to balance the budget, is going to go through K through 12.
Right.
So if more money was the solution, the problem had been solved a long time.
Right, exactly. And so balanced budget, he talked about, he bragged about balanced budget only, I think, 3 times, but he brags about this 8th balanced budget in a row. Again, it only comes with more every year with more fees and tax increases. Again, we talked about that, over 50 of those. Kind of talked about was $24 million in surplus out of a $56 million budget. And so I put this into the math, into the calculator, and the math is simply this. That's 30. So if the budget was a 24-hour day, $24 million is 37 seconds. If the budget was spent in one day, that would amount to 37 seconds. So anyhow, what's your thoughts, Chris?
It's unbelievable when we listen to this, because we know that one thing about it is J.B. Pritzker is very predictable, and because it's the same message every I mean, this is the 8th one that I've had to endure, and fortunately we were government in exile there for most of the speech today. But it's typical he wants more spending and more revenue, and it's all Trump's fault, and Illinois isn't shrinking, as which earlier today we had a press conference, and we prophesied this in real time, that this was actually what was going to happen. And Shazam, it totally did. But it's just incredible what they try to sell the good citizens here of Illinois, because we all know that in order for their appetite for spending hasn't decreased over time. And the thing that's really alarming to me is since I've been in office, I came in the same time Pritzker did. He's increased spending almost $20 billion with real money, because don't forget about the $11 billion in the veto session that they increased. So 56 really isn't 56; it's really 66 already to start with. But at the same time, we lost a congressional seat. We've been bleeding population. We've been bleeding jobs. We've been bleeding business. We've been bleeding opportunity. And at the same time, the Biden era, Pritzker era inflation that's been generated by their out of control spending it's the gift that keeps on giving. And the citizens of Illinois keep on voting with their feet as they make the trail in all 4 points of the compass to better opportunities.
Yeah, but if you listen to Pritzker, if you didn't know the truth, you'd think everybody was clamoring to get into the state. Business individuals, everybody's trying to fight to get in here, and everybody knows that is not the case.
Right.
People are leaving there voting with their feet.
Absolutely.
100%.
Right. Yeah, we also got on the board here, but he talked about healthcare costs to some extent, and but yet being unaffordable, but yet we're giving hundreds of millions of dollars to illegal aliens for their healthcare. They get it free.
There were no co-pays as well. No co-pays, no deductibles. $3.4 billion spent on illegal immigrants. $56 billion budget with $1 billion in new taxes, and the governor has the audacity to say this is balanced. He came in. The average wage earner was at $68,000 in the state of Illinois. Now it's $54,000. The budget's gone up to 56. It's gone 51%. These numbers don't lie. And now we have double the gas tax, highest property taxes in the nation, highest combination of state and local taxes. And he has the audacity to talk about affordability in the working class in that speech today.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the things on the medical front, what they don't talk about is, if you go to the ER, if you're an illegal, you go to the ER, anybody goes to the ER, they're covered. And that's where a lot of them get their primary health care, is they go to the ER, they get covered. The hospital is going to be on the hook for that, because they're paying the doctors, nurses, putting the lights on, all that good stuff. So where does that cost get shifted to? It gets cost shifted to everybody who goes to the hospital, has insurance, and they talk about all the costs. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to make somebody provide health care, they the hospital have got to spread that cost out amongst everybody else who's a paying customer.
I think at the end of the day, everybody needs to ask themselves, are you better off since 2019? Is your life better off today How's Governor Pritzker's administration treating you? That's what everybody needs to ask. It's not treating us very well.
No.
Well, there's tens of thousands of people's lives are better off, but they have a new zip code, and it's not one that resides in Illinois. So they are now in Arizona or Tennessee or Texas or somewhere else.
Yeah, and maybe the illegals that came from Mexico and Honduras.
Yeah, their life is probably
their
better.
life probably is better, but they're not supposed to be voting.
Yeah, exactly. Gentlemen, have we missed anything here? I can't quite see everything that's on the board behind us. Adam?
I would just say stay informed, folks. Today we saw a lot of propaganda, a lot of ridiculous talking points that the governor is laying out for a presidential run. Be careful, watch out. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it was kind of a quasi-presidential launch speech
Right.
today, and so I think we'll see that continue to amp up. We're 4 weeks from the primary being over, so once that gets over, I think we'll continue to see this run for the presidency amp up more and more. So, hey, why don't we just go to a couple closing comments? Maybe Leader Freeze and then Miller to close us out, and we'll say good afternoon.
Just to dovetail on what Adam said, anytime I think you're going to see Pritzker in front of a camera or talking to a reporter, it's going to be Trump, Trump, Trump.
Right.
You know, and ICE. You can't forget about ICE.
Yeah,
You know, God forbid we have federal agents enforcing federal law.
right. Chris?
Well, one thing about J.B. Pritzker is the truth is always the target, because rarely do you ever hear an honest conversation about anything, particularly to do with money. And in J.B.'s, he has no concept of what real life in the middle class world, how it even exists, because he has no concept of reality. And so, but I know that one thing that you need to do is pay attention and do the research. Don't listen to what he tells you. You know, it's like anything, you know, a tree is known by its fruit and a politician is known by his votes. And as Leader Niemerg said, life has not gotten better for anybody that lives in Illinois except for the illegal immigrants. And so until we get done here, I know the guys from the Illinois Freedom Caucus are going to be all gas and no brake.
Excellent point. Excellent closing comments and commentary throughout the afternoon, gentlemen. I think with that, we'll just close out for this afternoon. Say thanks for joining us. And as always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channels to help us overcome the algorithmic gods of the big tech overlords. And with that,